welcome to my channel, or welcome back. Feel free to subscribe if you're interested in any of these things right here, and if not, that's fine too. You're not obligated to stay here. I'm not obligated to make sense. We have no obligation to each other. I just am and you just are, and maybe we are and maybe we aren't. Who cares? It's none of my business. Grab a cup, pull up, let's hang out. I have to fix my face. I'm going to be drinking extraordinarily ridiculous amounts of coffee, and then we're just going to hang out. Such as friends do, right? Such as comrades do. So, yeah. Number one, what are you guys listening to? What kind of media are you consuming? What are you listening to? What are you watching? What are you reading? As always, I would like to know. So leave a comment below and let me know what you guys are doing. I'm interested. I want to know too. Okay, so number one, I need to fix my makeup. So let's go ahead and do that. Yikes. What is my problem? Had to line my lips. Now I'm gonna put some purple lipstick on. Yeah. Ta-da. So anyways, earlier I was wearing a red dress. I just got a new red dress and I'm really excited about it. But I'm very sensitive to colors. Like, I'm hyper aware of certain colors and how they make me feel. And in the mornings, red is appropriate for me. It is fine. I have a whole red room where everything in the morning is absolutely blood red. The walls are red, everything's red. The veil, how do you say it? Not veils. The curtains are red, everything's red in the morning. And I just sit within the red room and absorb as much red light as possible. Okay? I understand how red makes me feel, but I am more of I love black. I love wearing black. I like the way black makes me feel whenever it is on my skin. It is calming. It reminds me of Oblivion. I had a near-death experience where I ended up dying, and I was in absolute oblivion, and it was the most peaceful feeling in the entire universe, like dreamless sleep. Like a deep dreamless sleep. Anyways, so I know, sorry, 3 minutes in and I'm sitting here like talking about Oblivion, but the way black feels on my skin, particularly, it does something to my body, and I notice that there's a bodily reaction I have to it. It is it's nice. Now, red in the mornings is super appropriate for me. I like it. It helps me wake up. It helps me like get up, get dressed, go. You know, it helps me become fast. You know, it helps my heels know how to fly through time and space, right? And just keep going. But black is so soothing, and it is so calming. And anyways, I felt a complete shift. I was like, man, I was really aggravated earlier, and I was wearing this red and red dress, and I was like, wow, it's just, I feel so like I have to go, I have to, you know, there's so much work that needs to be done. And then I put on black, and then it was just like, immediately I felt like my heart changed. Like the pattern of my heartbeat shifted from the different colors. So I'm very sensitive when it comes to color. I know you're probably like, bitch, your hair's red. I know what fucking color my hair is. I know what color my hair is, honey. You don't have to remind me. But I have no problem with my hair being red. It's different. I don't know. My hair being red is fine to me. Like, it's not a big deal. But it's whenever it's on my skin. Does that make sense? Probably not. I took a chakra class before, like a chakra class, and we did studies on how different colors affect your chakras. And I think what it is that red will just, it's too much root for me, but black for me just feels like a hug. It feels comforting, like a hug. So I don't have any issues with wearing black. Does that make sense? And I also feel so protected. So yeah, I don't know. That's just how I feel. Everybody's different. You know what I mean? Everybody reacts to colors differently. Sometimes I feel extremely uncomfortable wearing blue. Sometimes I talk too much. I really do. I talk a lot about a lot of random things, and people are not always so receiving to how much I talk. So, oops, sorry. Here's an oopsie daisies. Put it in your pocket. Save it for later. Don't spend it all in one place. But yeah, whenever I'm wearing black, I know it sounds so stupid, but whenever I am wearing black, I feel a certain way. I feel protected, and it reminds me of that like strange oblivion. It feels like a womb or something, like being in the earth or something. It just feels comforting and safe, like I'm tucked in. Does that make sense? Like into bed, into myself. I don't know. So I like black. I like black, and it reminds me of Saturn. So there's that. It reminds me of death. So there is that. Okay. Anyways, yeah. So, hi, how are you guys doing? I hope you're doing well. I hope you're treating yourself kindly, and I hope that you're paying attention to your body and its specific needs. What do you need? What do you need out of this life? What do you need right now? Do you need to read a good book? Do you need to go do some research? I have a 1967 Webster's Dictionary, and it's a nice little book. I like it a lot. What I like doing with my books, especially my research books, is I grab them and I just randomly flip them open to a certain page. It doesn't matter what page, and then I just start devouring information. That's the kind of girl I am anyways. I don't really care about going, when I read a book, I don't usually read it from start to finish. Unless it's a fictional book, a fantasy book or something, then I read it from start to finish. But mostly with my reference books, it is random. It is really random, devouring throughout time and space of knowledge and information. Random acquiring of knowledge. But yeah, I like it. That's how I do with my books, at least. So I'm reading The Secret Teachings. So I have my Webster dictionary, and every time I have a word, or I use it to look up words, but I also use it to understand deeper meanings and context of words, because they have like, in this version of the dictionary, it'll have like, okay, well, it's a Anglo-Saxon, or it's Germanic, or it's Greek, and then they have the other versions of it. So like the name Luke or Lucas, like I ended up finding out actually meant like wolf. You know what I'm saying? I'm very interested in that, in picking apart words and finding the meaning behind the words we naturally say every day. So I did not know that Luke or Lucas was a word for a wolf. I knew that there was other names for the wolf or whatever. And then I did some time. I did some at one point I was a part of the Order of Bards, Ovates, and Druids. I was a bard. I was in the bardic area of it. If you don't know what that is, it's fine. You don't have to know, but I like dabbling in different avenues and religions and just devouring information any way I can. I enjoy that. So I love going, traveling places, learning things about people and their culture and different things. And for a couple of years, I was a part of the Order of Bards, Ovates, and Druids at the bardic level. And what they teach you is how to speak certain types of Gaelic. And I learned that a fowl was a wolf, and a Chinook was a fox. And a Caliach, I believe that's an owl or an old woman. But it's also like there's a certain type of banshees that are like wailing, crying women that are also like apparitions that foretell the endings of things. The tales of the banshee. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know why I was telling you that, but yeah. So I like learning different languages randomly. I read a lot of different languages, so then I like understanding the interconnectedness of things. I suppose I like pulling things apart and understanding how the mechanisms work. I don't know. That's just how I do research. So basically, right now I've been reading a lot of my dictionary, and just I'll flip to a different page and I'll devour that entire page of information. And then I literally mean devour. Like I'll just be enveloped like watching a show or something with my husband, as well as just enveloped in research, either on my phone or in a book or something like that. I always have my nose in research. And when I'm not, then I'm talking to people, then I'm just enveloped in other people's lives and communicating. Communication for me is top tier intimacy. So I do not care about physical intimacy. It's not very interesting to me. But what I do want to know is I want to know what you think. I love communication. I love hanging out with my friends and just listening to them and talking about ideas and sharing things. So when I'm not doing research, that's what I'm doing. My daily routine essentially becomes hanging out with my friends and communicating with them throughout the entire day. But because now I'm in my hermit kind of aspect of my life, I've been spending a lot of time alone at home researching different things. So I've been reading my dictionary from 1967, and people give me dictionaries throughout life. I've always gotten different types of dictionaries. So anyways, right now I'm in my hermit I'm in hermit mode. I don't know how to nicely say this, but I'm not so much depressed as I am taking the social cues from external and internal within myself to kind of begin, contemplating how things inside of me work and how they fit together and how they relate to each other externally and internally. You know what I mean? So because I'm doing my hermit's dance, I guess that's the nicest way to say it. I'm doing a hermit's dance. I feel slight guilt because I am not very good with upkeeping my relationships externally. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like with my friends, I have to come out of my hermit's cave and kind of shout down the mountainside and be like, hey, I'm still up here. I still love you. You guys are still valuable. But right now, time doesn't really make sense to me. And not only time, but other things don't make sense to me because I'm within myself and I am feeling myself out and seeing the things that are below the surface and on the cave walls within my mind and psyche and heart, right? And why they are there and how they make sense to things now around my life and whatnot. And on top of that, I do have a uterus, so I have to watch my lunar cycles. I have to watch my 28-day cycle for my period and menstruation, and according to the calendar, my menstrual cycle begins on the new moon. So psychologically, as somebody who has a uterus that is intact and still working and still giving me one fucking hell of a time, it's important that I pay attention to my cycles and how they affect my body, the ebb and flow of my own lunar tides within myself emotionally. So like I said earlier, I'm very, very sensitive to color. And it's not like I'm sensitive to color. Let's put it that way. I do have OCD, but psychologically I'm extraordinarily sensitive to color. So I start understanding my own social cues. In the mornings I need red, and in the evenings I need black, and that's my flow right now. I need to honor that flow. I need to envelop myself in red in the mornings, and then at a certain period just descend into that blackness. Or not that blackness, but perhaps darkness, or perhaps just the comfort of feeling safe and secure and protected by, whatever it is that I feel protected with or by, whatever. So I don't know, I'm doing my little hermit dance. I am allowing myself that intimacy with myself to know myself deeper, and I think that we should all do that at some point. There's such a huge, how do you say? There is such a huge emphasis on constantly being up everybody's ass. So, even though I'm on social media, I post short content, short form content, whatever, like stupid reels or dumbass videos, whatever, that are like a couple seconds long. That is me honoring myself. In the mornings, I'm very fast and witty and haha hee hee ho ho, right? Very I don't know, chaotic and mischievous. And then in the evenings, I start winding down. There is, I have a whole cycle. I have a whole thing that I go along with, and I honor myself, such as like I eat one meal a day. It's usually after sunset, and then I will study the star patterns in the night sky, see where the Pleiades is at, things like that. Um, Watch for comets and all kinds of things. I have night vision goggles, and I love observing the sky. That's something that I do every night, and I go into my deep contemplation. The air is crisp and cool, and I sit outside with my dog, and she chases raccoons through the yard and things of that nature. It's very calming, it's very peaceful, and I'm surrounded by the trees that I have planted within my backyard. So I like it. Nobody's around, and it's my peaceful time, my quiet hours. So perhaps wearing black reminds me of the night sky. It reminds me of my desire to be enveloped in the stars and things like that. I don't know. I don't know. That's something for me to know and you to never find out. No, I'm kidding. But no, it is something that I have to go within myself and discover, which is a form of intimacy. You know what I'm saying? Um, and like I said before, that you'll just start noticing, if you start paying attention to your cycle, and if you start honoring yourself and spending more time with yourself, um, retracting from these social ties you have, you'll find um, that we will have time to be alone. And it's not always a bad thing to be alone. It really isn't. People have always, like I said, there's an emphasis on being up everybody's ass, being on social media, being enveloped in somebody else's life, giving your life away to something else, serving something else. When truly, I think that we need to serve ourselves to an extent, just to figure out who the fuck we really are and what the fuck we're made out of and why the fuck we are. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of questions. Who, what, when, where, how, where, huh? There's a lot of questions that you could ask yourself. And through that, you can discover a whole microcosm within yourself, you know what I mean? And how it affects and relates to your life externally. So I am happy whenever I wear dark colors, and then I'm like reminded, oh, okay, there is such a fucking comfort in solitude. There's so much like love I have for the hermit stance, with being alone and not being lonely. Do you understand? You can be alone. There's nothing wrong with being alone. It's whenever people cannot be alone with themselves because you feel like you're with a stranger. That is an indication, that's a red flag that perhaps you need to slowly integrate yourself back into your body. Pull away from those social, external 11th house kind of things, 11th house in astrology, away from your friends, away from your hopes and dreams, and come back into like the reality of who you are at this moment. Accept it, and then you can change it a little bit. You know what I'm saying? But it's a slow process. It's when you cast. Do you guys fish? I fish. I love fishing. I love frying up catfish. I catch, clean, and cook anything that comes out of the Gulf of Mexico. And of course, it is dangerous because the food here is not always that good. Tons of chemical plants. But here's the thing, I can catch, clean, and cook anything that comes out of those dirty waters. You better believe it. I've eaten shark, stingray, catfish, hardhead, doesn't matter what it is. I'll make it, I cook it, I clean it, okay? So that's something within myself that I do. But also, there is an understanding that however far you throw out your lure, whenever you cast, goes into the wind takes it further, and then what else takes it further? Depending on how heavy the weight is whether it'll sink or it'll float, or if the tides will pull it further from you. So how can you just yank it and it pops back into place? No, you have to do what? As far as it went out is as far as you're going to have to reel it in. And sometimes reeling it in takes time. So as far as you throw yourself out, as far as you cast yourself out into the world, you will have to reel yourself in. Number one, to find out if there's something on your hook. Number two, to see if anything stole your bait. You know what I'm saying? Or at least that's just one way to look at it. But yeah, essentially, that's what it is. As far as you have cast out yourself, your soul, your mind, your spirit, your body, your, your social ties, as far as you've thrown it out, is as far as it has to come back in. And it takes time to reel it in. Sometimes you get snagged on an oyster bed. Sometimes you do. Sometimes you'll accidentally hit an oyster and you hook it and your line pops. And you gotta start the process over again. It's kind of like Saturn, you have to start again, start again, start again. You know what I mean? But what happens from that whole casting process is that you learn a lot when you throw your line out into the world, the line of yourself, the line of your mind, the line of your body. If you have it within you, you can learn to feel the line to see if something's yanking it. You can feel if it's being pulled out by the waves. You can observe the way that the water is shifting and figure out where your line is, if you don't have a bobber on it. And then that's a whole other thing. You do have a bobber. Well, you can see where your bobber's at. You can see if it's getting pulled under and figure out when you need to set the hook in the fish's mouth. Sometimes they do a bite, they let go. They do a bite, let go. They're skittish, they're smart. Or if it's a crab, just stealing the shit. So crabs, what they do is they grab your hook and then they take the food off and they sit there and they eat your food. And it's so funny because they grab it with their pinchers. I shit you not. They're so intelligent. And with their other claw, they just take the shit off of your hook. It is the funniest thing ever to get fucked with by crabs, because they fuck with you. It's so funny. At certain times, they do. But anyways, I love fishing. I need to go fishing again. We have a little Bobby Boucher boat, like an old school, like swamp ass, like over 40 years old. I think the boat is from 1985 or 1987. It's a very old boat. It's older than I am, but she works half the time. She needs a tune-up. Sometimes we kind of get stranded out there and we're like, well, I guess we'll just fish longer until she starts up. And every once in a while I have to like do a little prayer on her, and then she starts up and I'm like, thank you, whoever is helping me, thank you. Now I can leave. But yeah, I think that's funny. So anyways, yeah, you can, whatever you're doing other than just being on YouTube right now, you can start slowly spending time with yourself and figuring out, like, okay, so you're silly, maybe you're goofy. Let's just, for instance, with me, in the mornings, I love red. I love wearing red. I feel comfortable being in my red room with all the red light, and the curtains are red and the walls are red, everything's red, and I love being there. I feel like a kid again. I feel happy, excited, and I feel like dancing and moving and singing, and so I do. In the mornings, I feel like dancing, moving, singing, jumping up and down and getting excited and singing Chapel Roan or Ginger or Lamb of God and swinging my hair around and things of this nature, and dancing and not giving a fuck who sees me or who doesn't see me. It's just for me. It's for me and myself. And then in the evenings, I feel more comfortable winding down. I feel different with each passing hour. I feel a shift within myself. And that's fine. You're not going to be the same person all hours of the fucking day. You may come across something on the internet that evokes feelings of strangeness within you. You might see an image that triggers you. You might hear a story that upsets you or makes you happy or makes you cry. One thing about humans is that our emotions are extraordinarily tied to reading, seeing. Our emotions, the chemicals that are deposited within us from our nervous system and from our body and brain into our blood, it is an external stimuli that happens. You see something, you hear something, all of a sudden you're frightened, you're scared, you're shocked, you're nervous, you're happy, you're elated, you're overwhelmed with bliss and ecstasy and joy, from external stimuli. It's very interesting. The friction that happens on planet Earth between your body and the things around you, not just even physical friction, but like the friction of the emotional and the electronic things, and even sometimes reading things, evokes strange emotions from deep within yourself, So sometimes your nervous system's fried. Maybe you've been doom scrolling too long. It's time to shut the fucking phone off or delete the app, delete Facebook, deactivate it for a moment's time or something like that. You know, get off of TikTok, get off of YouTube or whatever, and then just sit with yourself like, well, I'm uncomfortable. Why am I uncomfortable? Why do I feel this way? What's going on with me? You know? I'm sorry. So yeah, I fucking drink so much coffee, and I mean, my bitch ass will still be sitting here yawning. Anyways, so you're not always going to be happy. You're not always going to be sad. You're not always going to be depressed. But every once in a while, people do need to get help from an external. It's like a vitamin. Like for me, I'm on, you know, slight. I call them little orphan antidepressants, and I call it that because both of my parents are dead. Um, so I call them my little orphan antidepressants instead of antidepressants because that's boring. Why not call it something funny? It's hilarious. Both of my parents are dead now, and so now I'm technically an orphan. So I'm kidding. And no, but I am on like a very, very low dosage of an antidepressant. But sometimes people need that to regulate your nervous system and your body, and then you'll get to a point where the temperance, you learn how to temper the water and the wine. You'll learn how your body is, how it works if you sit with yourself long enough, and you won't need them anymore. It'll come to a point where you talk to your psychiatrist, your doctor, your therapist, and they'll say, you know what, we'll start slowly weaning you off of it. It won't be a permanent thing. Nothing's permanent. Not us, especially. Not me. I would hate being permanent. I think perhaps I wouldn't. I don't know. I would hate being a statue. That would suck. We're not statues. There's movement within us. There's wind and fire and water, and even the earth moves. Tectonic plates. Even the earth moves, okay? And you could pick up dust and sand off the ground and blow it into the wind. That's movement. So, all I'm trying to say is, I don't know. Number one, I don't know. Number two, who fucking cares? No, but yeah. No, but yes. Well, no, but actually yes. Yes, but actually no. I think that today I'm gonna go watch Phantom of the Opera. I think I'm gonna go envelop myself in my little sad stories. I'm gonna get my black blanket and my black pillowcase and my I have a black hood here. I'm wearing my black velvet little dress, and I have a black hood. I have my little black hood. Please don't ears. My little black hood. I look like the girl from fucking Coneheads. Yeah. Anyway, so I think I'm gonna go just get all cozy and make the house extremely cold and watch Phantom of the Opera. I love Phantom of the Opera so much. So beautiful. Yesterday I watched the Rocky Horror Picture Show, and I was like, this hits differently when you watch it with the full frontal lobe. This hits differently after your Saturn return. And I watched it and I laughed. And I was like, how curious, how peculiar, how interesting. Love it. Anyways, yeah, I like. Let me just put it this way. Things will become more apparent to you, more clear. Your life will become very clear after 30. 27 to 33. It's a very difficult time for people. Very difficult time. Look into Saturn return. Look into your Saturn placement. It's very difficult. It's very, very tough. It's very difficult. Some people don't make it out. That's why there's certain things. It's very tough. It's very difficult. But it's something that everybody has. We all have a Saturn placement. We all have a Saturn return. We all have trials and tribulations that we're going through. But I will tell you this. I am so grateful that I survived. I am. And did I really survive? No, I died a couple times. I died a couple times in my life. Tons of times that I was on the cusp of death. But here's how I like to look at that. Every time that I was close to death, I think of it as just embracing Saturn very quickly. Like a deep love, just a quick embrace and then a push back into life. And so, is that romanticizing death? Perhaps. Is it wrong to romanticize Saturn? I don't know. Depends on how you look at him. Depends on the mask he's wearing for you. Is he the devouring father? Is he the drill sergeant grandfather? Is he the number one dad? What is he to you? To me, he's a mentor. He's a teacher. And yes, he can be devouring. But to me, Saturn is a teacher and a protector. And it's very interesting. So whenever I see certain people, evoking him in a way, I have a great deal of respect because, number one, there are things you can't say because it's just something you have to go through. Can a butterfly speak on metamorphosis while it's in the chrysalis? No. Can you accidentally kill a butterfly by cutting it out too soon? Yes. So there are things that you have to submit yourself to. And there are trials and tribulations that everyone goes through. And yes, Saturn is extraordinarily heavy. It is heavy. But if you can trust yourself and trust him to an extent, you'll make it out all right. You'll get through 37 or 27 to 33. It just depends. It depends. But some people don't. Some people are overcome and they want to run and they want to run and they can't run. And they step in a trap and they feel trapped. And then they're screaming and their foot's broken. And they're scared and they're scared and they're scared and they're scared and they're scared. And then they don't make it, But fear is information and you should not ignore it. You should not ignore fear. You should possibly find a way, as all life does. It finds a way, right? Is that not what Dr. Ian Malcolm said? Life finds a way. No, but it does. Life finds a way, and through the chaos there will be order, and then it'll go back and forth and la 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 la. But something extraordinary happens. For me, I can speak on mine, and I will speak on mine, for it is mine. For my Saturn return, the way I talked to my friend about it was that up until Saturn returned, I had died a couple of times in my life. There was many kisses of death that had happened to me. So many, I can't even fucking think of them all. But the one I speak on all the time is the wreck. Is being in absolute blackness and oblivion. It's more like being held, like a hug. Kind of like just being held, suspended in oblivion. It was nice. It was peaceful. It was a good reset. Let's just put it that way. I had no problems with it. And unfortunately, I think that's what addicts chase. I think they chase that embrace, which is also a very strange thing. What addicts do is that they get so high that they chase that oblivion and accidentally slip into it. It's very, very sad. Addicts break my heart because I just want to hug them all. I just want to hug all the addicts. It makes my heart fucking break into a million pieces. Anyways, so with me, with my own Saturn return, okay? Now I have Saturn in the sign of Aquarius. Thank God that's his own sign. But for a long time I was so scared to speak. I felt choked. I felt the feeling of speaking was I could not speak on things because, number one, the way I talk is strange. No, it is. I'm kind of weird. And so I had to find myself within a special realm to speak on things. And then I learned how to use my voice correctly, and I learned how to shut up when I needed to. But when it got to the point, let's put it this way, with my Saturn return, and people, number one, waterproof eyeliner. Number two, waterproof mascara. You're going to be crying. You will possibly elongate. You might lose a lot of weight. You may look more skeletal. So take care of your bones. Make sure you're taking calcium. Look at the house he's sitting in. Look at the aspects he has to other planets. Look at the conversations that are happening. Because when he returns, it is lesson time. Your whole life you have lived this moment. And now it's time for you to show your work. Show your work. Begin again. Go. Show your work. Use all this practice that's being put into place. Go. And so with mine, I will use metaphors because it's all I know how to do really right now. It was like I had dug a grave. My whole life I had dug a grave. The most perfect grave. The most beautiful grave. It fit me perfectly. And then Saturn was like, okay, now get into it. I said, what? Wait, what? Why was I digging? Why did you make me want to dig? And every time I dug deeper, there was a trinket I would find, a little thing, and it made it more interesting. Why was I digging? I could not figure out why I was digging. What is this? What is this? And this black earth and this deep, oaky scent of earth. There was all this richness under the soil. There's a bone. There's a fine jewel. Oh, there's a booklet. Oh, there's a statue. Oh, there's a goddess. Oh, there's this. Oh, there's that within this soil. Oh, there's my ancestors. Oh my God, there's my inheritance. Oh, there's this. Oh, there's that. I kept digging. And then at the end of it, I was digging a grave. I had no idea. I was just so enthralled with the mysticism of digging and discovery and achievement and advancement and collecting all these things. And I would put them out of the hole into like a pile, a little shrine. And Saturn would just sit there and watch and mentor me and tell me every time I showed Saturn something. I said, well, what is this one? You know how to do research. You know how to ask questions. I've taught you how to ask questions. Ask the right ones. And so I was like, oh, okay. And I'd pause digging to go do research. And everything I found, I put these lost things into a pile. And Saturn, the ever-present watching mentor, in his finest suit, was there, waiting, watching. And so I found all kinds of curious things in this hole. And then, like I said, at the end of it, when I hit 27, oh my God, it was a grave. A grave. I was digging a grave. From who? Myself. And so Saturn kind of looked at me and was like, lay there. And so I did. And the next part is strange. Because I had to learn that I was safe. And even though I was in a box, I had to bury myself. I had already died so many times. But I had to bury myself and trust and not scream and be silent. Because the next part, it was like somebody holding a boulder over your body while you're in a grave. And the boulder is descending slowly, and you're lying there and you're watching it. Slowly, every day, go backwards and forwards. And so my Saturn return was me lying in this grave watching this boulder get closer and closer and closer till it was right here. And I could smell my own breath. And the biggest lesson was to not move, was to not speak, was to not twitch, fidget, move around too fast. You could break your nose. The boulder was so close. If I moved too quickly, it could have snapped my nose. Was it going to fall on me? Was it going to kill me? Was this going to be it? The slow boulder, the slow. And then it stayed there for a while. And then I realized I was all alone. And so I had to do what? Look within myself. All my trinkets were outside of the grave. And Saturn was like, just trust me. Just trust me. Trust me. Trust me. And I had to trust the universe. I had to trust myself. I had submitted myself to this experience. I wanted to know. I was curious. I was so insatiably curious. I still am. And everybody knows that. Everybody knows that I can't shut the fuck up. So I had to. I had to shut the fuck up. For how long? However long it took. I had to go inside of myself. There's many times I did not want to stay on the highway, so to speak. I wanted to take an exit, so to speak. I did not want to feel that way. How long was this boulder going to be here? It was like going into an MRI machine. Scary. Being in a casket. Being underground. Being slowly covered with a giant rock. It was a lot. And it was mind altering and psychologically crippling and alone and isolating. And I was like, am I in prison? Am I a prisoner within this hole I dug for myself because I couldn't stop digging? I was so curious at everything I found. A coin. What is that coin from? What? Oh, this dynasty, amazing. Oh, a sword. Oh, a chip from a pottery. What is all of these things? I kept digging and digging and digging. I was so insatiably curious. I couldn't stop myself. I dug a grave. I laid in the grave. And so, what did I do? Well, he said to trust it. I knew it was coming. I had done research. I had found an astrological book while I was digging. I knew who Saturn was, and me and my friends spoke about him all the time. She knew who he was too, very intimately. And so did I, and we knew different versions of him. So there was a great deal of respect, but also sadness and sorrow and confusion and death. So I had to submit myself to my Saturn return, as we all do. And it's sad because sometimes my friend would speak to me. I could hear her past the boulder. And she'd be like, hey, I lost somebody. I lost another person. I'm losing people around me. I don't want to lose you. I'm gone. I'm just under this rock. He told me to trust him. He said he'd move it. I don't know when. This sucks. But it's like I couldn't do anything but lay there. Could not do anything but lay there. And travel within myself. What did this all fucking mean? What the motherfuck? What the fuck? What is this? What is this shit? What is this? You know, I was like, what the fuck is all of this shit? And so I was just sitting there with myself, like, oh my god. And I was going through a lawsuit. I was going through a lawsuit as well. And it wasn't just a metaphor of feeling like I was in a grave pinned against the fucking earth with a gigantic boulder upon me. I had lawyers that were like, listen, you're going to be watched. Everything you're doing is being watched. So, be on your P's and Q's. For how long? For a very long time. Many years this lawsuit dragged out. And so, I would find solace in going downtown and listening to all the people and things like that. But I was so quiet for so long. I couldn't be honest with anybody. I couldn't tell anybody really what I was going through. I was so sad. My father died. My grandmother died. And then I died. And then I came back. And I went through the lawsuit. And there was little things. Like Saturn was always there. You can see, like, in one thing, I was sitting at a very large table in my lawyer's office. And there was 12 tables. I was sitting at a large table in my lawyer's office, and we were doing some kind of online thing, and so it had to be like a Zoom call, something of that nature. I'm not going to speak too much on it, but at the table there was 12 chairs, and I was sitting in the third chair, and then behind me was a skeleton. They had an anatomically correct skeleton sitting behind me directly. My lawyer came in and was like, hey, I noticed that there's a skeleton directly behind you, and I don't like the way that looks. I don't think that it's presenting correctly. It looks fucking scary. You look scary. So we're gonna, my lawyer was in a different room, and I was in the room with the table with 12 chairs. I was sitting in the third seat, and behind me, Saturn was there in his skeletal form, as a skeleton, literally, in my lawyer's office while we were doing a Zoom thing. And so it was very interesting because if you know anything about Aquarius, then you'll know something about Aquarius. And so, yeah, I was like, wow, if you know anything about the third house, you'll know about the third house. So, as always, he was there. Like every moment, he was there. And I had smashed vertebrae. My spine was broken. And I had to go repair it. And I had to burn nerves out of my body. And if you know about the spine, you know about the spine. So there was a restructuring that had happened within me, literally. And for a long time, I was emotionless and silent and psychologically fucked up. I had thought that I wasn't real. I had mental issues from the wreck. And I really thought at that moment, for those years, that I was possibly dead and maybe an apparition. That I wasn't, because there was no way that I could be alive. This isn't real. So I struggled daily to lay in that grave with that boulder upon me. It would get damp. Sometimes it was cold at night, kind of thing. Let's just like metaphorically say that. Sometimes it was cold. Sometimes the sun would be directly over the boulder and the boulder would be warm to touch, and so it would nestle up against the deep, dark earth, right? And so then it came to a point where many other things had happened that I won't speak on. But I noticed every day that there was more light around me and that the boulder was coming off of me, so to speak, slowly, day by day. And then it would go back down, go back up, go back down, go back up, day to day to day, until eventually, after Saturn's return, it was removed, and he was there looking at me. I was like, well, how did you do? Saturn, how did you do? Should we begin again? Did you learn your lesson? Did you learn something? Tell me what you learned. Use your voice now. And so I was like, what the fuck? What the fuck was that about? Like, are you serious? What the fuck was that about? But it's important to watch Saturn. It's important to see where he's at, what he's doing. He's a heavy hitter in a birth chart. I watch Saturn, I watch Pluto, I watch Chiron, and Uranus. I watch Uranus. Mercury and Venus, okay, yes. And Mars, sometimes. Okay, whatever. I watch Saturn. I pay attention to what he's doing. I watch Uranus. I pay attention to what he's doing. Jupiter, I'm just like, okay. Alright, Jupiter. Alright, whatever. Party boy. Jupiter. Silly boy. Jupiter knows how I feel. But no, I do. I watch Saturn. Because he's scary. He's scary. I watch Pluto. Oh yeah. with eyes that do not blink. I watch them. And Uranus, I'm like, hey. So those three guys, those three dudes, those three homies, I'm always watching them astrologically. I'm just like, hi, hey guys, what's up? And to the point where I feel like they're family. To the point where I'm just like, hey, okay, well, what's going on here? I understand that some of my life's greatest lessons come from these. And there is Neptune, but for me, Neptune is number one. I always equate it to the Christ consciousness. So Neptune's a little sweetie pie. I love Neptune, but so I don't really watch Neptune. Neptune moves slowly and it does its job and it's just resonance and it's nice, but Uranus I watch and I'm captivated. It's like watching lightning hit a tree and the tree blow the fuck up and it makes a funny sound. It goes boom. And then there's toothpicks everywhere. Wow. Wow. Wow, you know? But I do. I watch Uranus. And if any of the other smaller planets, Venus, Mercury, Mars, Rahu, Ketu, if any of these other planets or aspects or whatever touch Uranus or touch Saturn or even the moon right now, the moon is in Pisces. And La Bella Luna, she's sweetly ballet dancing to Saturn, who's in Pisces retrograde right now. And so I watch Saturn and I make sure, I watch him. He watches everything. Okay. Now, sometimes Saturn can be malefic. Sometimes he can be. So just look in your chart and see where he's at and see the flavors that are there. Everybody has their own little fucking thing to go chase. The number one thing I could say is do it for yourself. Don't do it for anyone else. And don't do it for any kind of gain, other than if you want to gain yourself. You gain your life, gain your truth, gain. I wouldn't do it for gain, though. I have an insatiable curiosity. I gotta know. I gotta fucking know. And so I always get myself into trouble, number one. I'm insatiably curious. And fucks me up in the end. It really always does. One time, my mom had a black bag where she kept all her makeup and mysterious things, and I didn't know what was in there. And it was like her powder bag or whatever. Like we have makeup bags now, they're clear, see-through, whatever. But she had a black one, which was rare to have a black makeup bag in like the 90s. Everyone had like those like very bright holographic highlighter makeup bags. So I was like, what's in here? What is in there? She said, do not put your hand in there. Don't put your hand in there. I'm going to go inside the store. I noticed you've been looking at my makeup bag. Don't do it. Don't put your hand in there. And she never told me why. She just wanted me to blindly like fucking listen to her. She never told me why. That I shouldn't put my fingers in her makeup bag. So the first thing I do is she leaves the car. I'm mischievous and insatiably curious. So I grab it, I unzip it, I stick my hand in. I pull my hand out immediately, covered in blood. There was an unsheathed razor. And I had put my hand so quickly in there because I wanted to hurry up and quickly pull everything out and look at it before she came back to the car. I wanted to know what was in this black bag. What was in there? Why was it so special? Why wouldn't she tell me what was in there? What was it? What is it? What was it? What? I had to know. I just fucking had to know. And I was so insatiably curious. And so, pulled out my hand, covered in blood. Ha ha ha. You fool. She told you not to look in the bag. I had to look in the bag. Of course I did. She said I couldn't. Why couldn't I? Why? What was in here? Immediately zip her bag back up. I'm like, oh my god, there's blood in her bag. Whenever she opens it, she's gonna know I can't lie. I can't hide. I'm very bad at lying in the first place. I'm very bad at hiding things. Oh my god. Oh Lord. I was just freaking out, and I was like, okay, I'm bleeding everywhere. Okay, I didn't have any like paper towels, so I was like, okay, I just wiped the blood under the seat where I was sitting. I know that's gross. I'm sorry. I did. I'm being honest. I was like 11. We were traveling across the country to California, and I had slit my finger open so deeply because she had an unsheathed razor in her makeup bag. Who does that? What the fuck, Mom? So, anyways, so I'm sitting there hiding, and she notices. She looks at me. She notices. She's like, "What the fuck happened? What did you do?" And I was like, "Oh, nothing." And she, "Oh, you're lying. You're lying. What did you do, Emily Ann? What did you do?" And so I was just like, I knew I was gonna get in trouble. If I got hurt, I was always in trouble for getting hurt. So I wasn't allowed to get hurt. I had to be very careful. If I was being mischievous, I had to be careful and cautious because getting hurt would get me into a lot more trouble than getting caught doing something mischievous. So I showed her my finger. Oh my god, she came unglued. She was like, what the fuck? And literally, she used super glue to piece together my split open finger. And then I got the fucking talking to of a lifetime. She was just, and that is like a Saturn-esque thing, to get punished in that way. To just talk, right? Talk it over, stop. Hash it out. Finish. Broken record, begin again, and so I told you not to. I told you. Well, you did not tell me. You really didn't tell me what was in the fucking bag. Now I know. And so that's kind of like how my life has played out. There would be something somewhere, and I'd be like, what's that? What's this? What is that? I want to know. What is this thing? And then I would go and look, sit back, be curious, look around, much like a skittish cat. Test the waters, figure out what's going on. And then, if somebody told me not to, I did anyways. I was always adventurous. There's been plenty of times where I did things I wasn't supposed to do. Plenty of times. And sometimes I was, got away with it or whatever. Sorry, I'm noticing that my nose needs powdering. So sometimes I would get away with them. Sure, why not? Sometimes I'd get away with being mischievous, Other times, I would not get away with them because I would get wounded. My mischievousness would literally wound me so deeply. So yeah, it was very strange. My Saturn return was bizarre because it started off with my grandmother died, and then a week later my father died, and then a month later I died. My Saturn return started with 3 deaths. Ironically, I'm named after my father and my grandmother, so I thought perhaps maybe it was like some kind of, I don't know, blood pact. I'm just kidding. No. And if we fall, we all fall, and we fall alone. I'm just kidding. We're friends, right? So, no, I'm kidding. No, but yeah, that thought was in my mind. It was like in my craziness, in my the mixture of mental health issues that was abundantly clear that I had from that wreck. When I came to it, I was like, did we have like a past life compact or something? And so it was like 1, 2, 3. It was like immediately we were all dying. And it was very, very scary. I'll never forget the day my grandmother died. My husband left the door unlocked, and a vicious wind came through the apartment complex, and it blew the front door open, and the door slammed up against the wall, and I was just like, what the fuck? I was so confused and concerned. I was like, oh my god, I thought somebody was breaking into the house, and it was the wind, and it was howling. It was a loud, howling wind, and I was like, what the fuck? And then, so what I do is whenever very, very strange things happen to me, sometimes I'll jot them down on a calendar, or I write a little symbol on the calendar, and then I have to go back and piece together the puzzle pieces of my personal life. So that day I kind of jotted like, something, let's just say blah, 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 the 11th or whatever, wind blew open door. That's weird. What was going on that day? I don't know. I was too busy. I had to get ready for work and take care of my kids and be a wife and a mother and whatever, right? And so I had many, many roles to play. So whenever something strange happens, sometimes I'll just, side note, on the calendar or something, okay, the 11th door blew open, that's weird. Whatever. Or, notice too many birds dead in parking lot. Notice too many grasshoppers in windowsill. Like just weird little coincidences that I would notice. And so then I went back after I had found out that my father died a week later. He died the day of her wake. So then I got a call because I was in, how do you say, his only living descendant or whatever. And so it was my job to come get the body or whatever. I don't know. I was being initiated into death. I did not know much about death. I did not know much about law. I did not know much about speaking on these things. I didn't know much about talking correctly. I knew how to be weird. I knew how to be socially awkward. And I knew how to look like a fucking freak. I knew how to masquerade as normal to an extent. I knew how masquerades worked. I knew that what normal meant and how to people please and be passive aggressive, and then I did not know about standing in truth. I did not know what truth and love were. um, I knew love, but I did not know. I guess there's like a certain type of love that comes from Saturn. There's a certain type of love that comes from every planet that you can receive. Venus is not the only planet of love. There's a divine love that when you look into your own self and you look at your own moon placement, you can find a divine love for yourself within your own moon placement. Like, where do you emotionally, how do your emotions play out? How does this work? You know what I mean? And then, so also, it's like with Saturn, like, everything has a love aspect to it. You know, love is the top thing, the top dog of everything. It's love. Everything is, to me, to me personally. Now, it could be because I am a Libra. I do love love. I do love love. I think that love is it conquers all. Love is over everything. And so I think that, and I feel, I don't think, I feel that whenever I learned about Saturn and I learned about Uranus and Neptune and Pluto, I developed a love for them. So through my awareness, through submitting myself to research and also submitting myself to the things that happen astrologically, in and out, I developed a love, and that love became a bond. That love became a bond, and I was able to then love them. Like, I love my mentor because of the gifts that he gives me, all of the intellect and all of the wisdom and the advancement and the achievement I get from submitting myself to these trials, tribulations. It is a type of divinity within me that I love Saturn, that I love Pluto, that I love Hades, that I love all the things that are in the underworld. I love underworld traveling. I love that. I love Jupiter's, you know, jolly giant aspect of himself, and also that he is a lover and things of that nature. And there are aspects about Jupiter I do not enjoy, but I understand. And with that understanding, there is a love that I have for Jupiter. Okay, I love Mercury. In fact, the trickster is my favorite aspect of human nature and divinity. I love Mercury so much. Anybody who can channel that Mercurial, you know, that beautiful Mercurial archetype, or who has Mercury, like, kind of, they present very Mercurial. I love them too. I love them so much because they're so witty and charming and beautiful and fast and clever. They're clever, and they're great wordsmiths, and they're fast on their feet, and they're just so, they have an aura around them that is divine, and I love that too. And of course, Venus, the divine goddess of love. Love, 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 right? She is so beautiful in all of her ways and all her wares, and within Taurus and Libra. I love Taurasian people. They are so beautiful and so divine to me. So when I speak about that there is a love that can happen whenever you know, I mean, there is this feeling within yourself that is outside of yourself, and then there is like this connection, this little, how do you say, I like to say, a thread of love between myself and all of these aspects of the divinity and of human nature and of our psyche and our collective consciousness at this time. um, it is fun, it is divine, it is, you know, it is what it is. But the best thing you can do is look at your own life, look at your own stuff, look at where your placements are in your astrological chart. And people always ask me, where do I get started? Ask questions. You get started when you are insatiably curious. When you have to, I always asked questions. I always had a burning need to ask questions. It felt like I always equate it to somebody was putting fire out on my skin. I had to know. I just had to know. And I probably would have been a fantastic journalist because I need to know. I have to know. And I would go into the darkest depths to find out the truth. And did I? Yeah. Yeah. Were there sacrifices that had to be made? Yeah. Trust is a sacrifice. Trust is a big sacrifice to me. Trust is holy shit. You could fucking die and start the fuck over. Wow. Trusting yourself. That's crazy. Trust yourself? Who are you? Do you even know yourself? It's scary. It's scary. It's frightening, right? Is it not? Is it not frightening whenever you look around and you figured out that you dug your own grave? Is that not frightening? Whew, I scare myself sometimes, as I should. But fear is information and it shall not be ignored. So you get scared of something, you get a little spooked out, investigate, ask questions. That's what they teach you in science class, is it not? Ask questions. Where's your Mercury at? Is it retrograde? Is it difficult for you to speak? Is it difficult for people to understand what you say? Do you have to speak in riddles? Do you have to speak in metaphors, parables? How does your Mercury sit? Go through every planet. With astrology, I always tell people to as well. Close your eyes, throw a dart at the board. Spend a week on just investigating every day for 1 week Venus, and then look into the mythology. What is Venus? Go all the way back to Babylonian times to pop culture right now. What is Venus? How does she show up? Well, how does she show up? Aries, Taurus, Gemini, blah blah blah. Throughout the signs, how does Venus look like there? What are all the masks she wears? Okay, now how does she hold conversations? Well, what are Venus and Mars aspects? Okay, sextile, trine, opposition, conjunction. Like it just starts off, as anything starts off, it's going to take time. Astrology takes time. And preferably if you have a shitty astrological chart like I do, it's easier for you to be open to the notion that this holds some type of weight in any way, shape, or form, because you'll start thinking to yourself, well, my life's kind of fucked up. Ding, ding, ding. My life's kind of fucked up. Why? What is it? What is causing my life to be this fucked up? And then you'll start investigating. If you have a sniffer on you, like I do, I'm like a bloodhound with metaphysical shit. I'm like a bloodhound with the occult. And here's the thing. It's shifting, it's shaping, it's always moving around. It's ever growing and expanding, and yet at the same time. It's very peculiar. It is and it is not. Who fucking knows? But it's up to you to find meaning and purpose individually. C'est la vie, right? So, all that being said, good luck on your travels. Rest your head when you need to. Drink water. Don't forget, you're also a body. This is your temple. Don't forget to recharge yourself. Laugh hysterically. Laugh so loud you annoy all the boys around town. Be enveloped in the bliss of your laughter and joy, and also be cautious, be careful. If you are mischievous, ask questions and weigh consequences before you do actions. Sometimes I don't do that. Sometimes I'm too fast with my thoughts, and then my thoughts are like, act, do, let's do. You think it, let's do it now. And then I'm just like, okay, and then I'm like, holy shit, I'm fucking bleeding. I need stitches. And my mom's just like, super glue, paper towel, hold your hand up so the blood doesn't go to your finger. And I'm just like, okay, thanks, Mom. Thanks. Fantastic. Love this. Can I have 14 more? I'm kidding. Look where your Saturn placement is. Be nice to yourself. Go slow. Great things take time. And with Saturn, he's going to make you work. With Saturn, it's going to take time. It took me, 31 years? 32 years? 32 years. It took me 32 years to actually get to this point, to actually open up, to bloom. It took me 32 years to bloom. And within those 32 years, Saturn was ever present. He's always present. I had died many times. I had been close to death many times. I had tasted death's lips many times on accident, or what I perceived to be an accident, but I was also pushed away from the bounds of death many times, saved, protected, guided, whatever. It's up to you. It's up to you to investigate yourself. It's up to you to find your little light, your little guiding light, and follow it or not. It doesn't matter. You could walk around detached from your life. That's fine too. Whatever. That's your life. Maybe that's what you need. Maybe that's the thing you need right now. The thing you need right now is not always going to be forever. Um, you know what I'm saying? Once you learn how to temper the water and the wine, and you understand the dance of temperance, you may not need something anymore, and then maybe you don't have to take your little orphan antidepressants. Maybe there'll come a time where you can alleviate yourself from this trial, whenever you pass it, or you have to start over and go right back through the cloisters, right? So, I hope you have a fantastic day. I hope that you are well. I hope mentally you're doing good, and if not, reach out, get some help. Get a blood test done, check your vitamins, check your iron count, figure out where you're at. And physically, I hope you're doing well. Spiritually and emotionally, I hope you're doing fantastic. I hope that you love yourself deeply and dearly and understand that your life is important. It is important for you to be here. And yeah, life is scary, and yeah, it's fucked up, and I am the poster child for surviving fucked up situations, so it's worth it. Just get past 31 and 32. We're not even going to talk about what happens when you're 60, though. I haven't made it there yet. Maybe I'll be able to speak on that then. Anyways, I'm going to see you guys later. Okay, goodbye.